So here we need to, again, subtract these fractions. So we want to find our common denominator. So this is already in a factored form. Okay, so we have our binomial factor here. So what we're missing from this factor is an x minus 2 factor. And we need to make sure we do the top and bottom by x minus 2. And on this side here, this x minus 2 factor is missing an x plus 5 factor. Okay, so then when we multiply this out, we end up with x squared over x plus 5, x minus 2, and I would recommend keeping it in factored form. It's much easier. Be careful with the minus, because when we subtract, we need to subtract the whole numerator. So here we're going to end up with x squared plus 2x minus 8. And that's all over the common denominator of x plus 5, x minus 2. Now I did forget to state the restriction, although it didn't ask for restrictions. There are restrictions on this fraction because, again, remember, we cannot divide by 0. So x cannot be equal to 2 or negative 5. Okay, so this is, again, our domain restriction. So we have here, going back to the subtraction here, we have our common denominator. We can now add and subtract the numerator. Whenever we have a minus, you have to be extra careful because we're subtracting everything in here. So we're going to end up with x squared minus x squared, so those cancel out. And we end up with negative 2x minus minus and plus 8. Okay, and that's all over the common denominator of x plus 5, x minus 2. Okay, so now this is actually the final answer, but if you see that this is factorable, you may want to try to factor it and see what happens. Okay, and it is factorable, but it does not generate any factors that cancel. But it is good to factor if possible, because there are times when there may be common factors that cancel. And again, please do not cancel things like minus 2 with a negative 2. Okay, this is a factor, this is not a factor. The whole bracket represents a multiplying piece. Okay, here we have our common denominator is going to involve, well, we need a 3 times 3, we need a times b minus 2, we need a times 2, and a times b plus 3. Okay, so we have to basically multiply this fraction with all of this. We need to multiply this fraction with all of this. So I'm just going to write it over here, give myself a little bit of space to work. So I need to multiply the top and bottom of that with 3 and b plus 3. That's 3 and b plus 3. Okay, and we can organize that multiplication. We can do it whatever order we want, because remember, multiplication is what we call commutative. It doesn't matter the order in which you do it. Okay, so this one here, we need to multiply by 2 and b minus 2. And we need to multiply by 2 and b minus 2. And again, notice I put this all in brackets so I don't forget to multiply this as a binomial. So in the numerator here, maybe I'll do this in steps. So I get 24b times b plus 3. Here I'm going to multiply 2 times 3 is 6. And I'm going to multiply the binomials together. So I get b squared. Well, actually, what am I doing? I really don't need to multiply that out, because remember, that is the factored form is much better. Okay, so my common denominator is going to be 6b minus 2b plus 3. In the numerator here, I'm going to end up with, it's going to be 2. I'm going to multiply the binomial together, b squared minus 3b plus 2. Right? So I end up with 24b squared plus 72b plus 2b squared minus 6b plus 4, and that's all over my lowest common denominator. Okay, so the last step is I'm going to combine my like terms. So 26b squared plus 66b plus 4. Okay, and so yeah, that looks right, and that's all over my lowest common denominator of 6b minus 2b plus 3. Now I just noticed that there is a common factor of 2 that can be factored out, and that common factor of 2 could have been factored here. That would have made our work a little bit easier, dealing with a little bit smaller numbers. So if we can recognize when we can simplify the fraction first, that's always easier to simplify the fraction before we add it. So in this case, we kind of missed that, so I'm going to do that at the end. So I end up with 13b squared plus 33b plus 2. Okay, that's not factorable. And I'm going to divide the bottom by 2 as well. And there's my simplified fraction answer. Okay, so for this next one here, we want to again factor. And if we can, simplify the fraction first. So here I'm going to end up with 3 over x plus 3, x plus 2, plus x minus 5 over x plus 3, x plus 1. Okay, so the common denominator here will be x plus 1, x plus 3, or x plus 2. So we're going to multiply the bottom by x plus 1, the top by x plus 1. Here we're going to multiply the bottom by x plus 2, and the top by x plus 2. Again, notice I'm putting in the brackets here, so I remember to distribute this out when I multiply. So 3x plus 3 plus x squared minus 3x minus 10. That's all over my common denominator. Okay, so combining like terms, I end up with x squared. The 3x's cancel, so I end up with minus 7. That's not factorable. And that's over x plus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. And again, I forgot to state my restrictions, and I should have stated my restrictions. So my domain restriction would have been x is not equal to -1, -2, -3. Okay, here my domain restriction was x is not equal to +2, -3.